Hey everyone, welcome back to another recap podcast from SNXweave, where we give quick weekly recaps of news and important updates from the previous week from the Spartan Council and core contributors, as well as discuss what the Grants Council and ambassadors are up to, so let's get started. The Alpheka release has gone out. This included SIP 299 for minor upgrades to V2X to support the V3 migration, and was implemented without any downtime last week. This just granted a few special permissions to the legacy market contract, which is the facilitator of the migration to Synthetics V3. These upgrades have started to lay the groundwork for stakers to migrate their collateral and debt from V2X, and represent a pretty big milestone on the path to V3. Now, the key remaining SIPs of V2 are SIP 237 for debt migration and SIP 255 to burn fees instead of distribute them. Now that SIP 299 is done, these will be coming up over the next few weeks. Caleb also gave a few updates on the atomic swap parameters, saying this week they hope to switch the Uniswap V3 pool to 5 basis points on the direct integration with 1inch and lower fees to 5 basis points gradually. Curve is also implementing some changes to the parameters of their pools. They're lowering SETH and SUSD fees to 2 basis points, as well as adjusting the amplification factor on the SUSD pool. Caleb said hopefully these changes will make atomic swaps more competitive. As for V3, Noah said the full scope of Synthetics V3 core has been delivered for audit. Perps V2 is also nearly ready for release, meaning contributors can now start working on all the new markets that will roll out with V3. Last week, there were also a couple of SIP presentations, so let's briefly review them. The first was SIP 290 for a deprecated category for SIPs and SCCPs. Presented by Millie, this SIP proposes a small change to the organizational flow on GitHub and proposes adding a deprecated category for SIPs. Currently, there are draft, approved, implemented, feasibility, vote pending, and rejected categories. But there isn't a category for SIPs that have been implemented, then deprecated over time and aren't being used anymore. This applies to a lot of the fees for different markets. For ones that have been updated, old ones will be moved to the deprecated category. Tara asked who decides when a SIP is no longer relevant and can be deprecated. And Millie said the proposal says only if there is a protocol governance upgrade that renders it deprecated, and changing the categorization would probably be in the hands of whoever the SIP editors are. Tara also asked, when the deprecation takes place, is there a SIP that is created to initiate the deprecation, or is it just a housekeeping task? And Millie confirmed that it is just a housekeeping task. Tara suggested doing one SIP to deprecate all the current applicable SIPs, and then future SIPs can include deprecation in their proposal if they're deprecating a current SIP. There is consensus for this update. The next presentation was SIP 299 for an independent work group. This SIP was also presented by Millie and proposes some changes to the structural workflow of the Ambassador Council. He explained that the current ambassador mandate is a bit constrictive in how people can contribute. Originally, the ambassadors figured they would just go through governance to change the mandate when necessary and go from there. But that's a lot of governance overhead for every small change. The KPI mandate is a bit narrow, and if they want to expand it, they would also need to propose an additional SIP. Millie said the KPI mandate was originally for transparency and accountability, but SNXweave already documents everything we do, so the transparency and accountability are already there. He added that the KPI mandate kind of makes the ambassadors run like a business, but they want to make sure Synthetics governance represents a proper DAO. There's no huge change that would happen. The election and governance process would still be the same. The ambassador brand would also be kept for a while to maintain consistency, but Millie said the reasoning for work group is to move away from the connotations of the word ambassador. If this SIP passes, then this will deprecate the current ambassador mandate. There seemed to be general support for this SIP, and Caleb even said he thinks this is a really good improvement. Millie agreed, saying he thinks it will encourage more people to get involved. SCCP 249 was also proposed last week by the Gauntlet team, who presented their data and reasoning behind wanting to raise the target C ratio from 400% to 425%. This SCCP, however, was rejected by the Spartan Council. In Grants Council updates, the team has been working on and discussing the NFT project at length as they continue to deliberate the mint contract details. Duck said the contract work itself is progressing well, and they might need another set of eyes for a soft audit. He's also planning to give the team an update on the lore this week. Duck also shared that he was approached by some other DAOs about the SIP SCCP website, who expressed interest in using the UI from this site to make their own version. The team had some good suggestions about how they could possibly release this as a public good that anyone could use and deploy with their own repos. They decided this might be difficult with different DAO code structures, so Duck will be making a short description to allow them to adapt the UI to their own templates. In ambassador updates, in addition to Millie's 2 SIPs last week, Master Mojo created a delegate communication thread on Hop Protocol. It proposed setting Hop incentives for SUSD and SNX pools on Optimism at the equivalent of $5,000 per month. The ambassadors are now getting 3,600 Hop for governance participation. The team is also working on getting more Euler delegation votes as well. And that's it for today's updates. Be sure to check out our weekly recap blog post, share this podcast link, and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear more about from SNXweave. Thanks for listening.